Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am happy to see you all here. Today we are coming back to the world of Heroic Magic Duel. Amazing battler game for mobile that you can get for free from Play Store or App Store if you are playing on the iPhone. So today, as opposed to the very first video, which you're welcome to watch on my channel, where I very quickly reviewed and shared my initial impressions about the game with you, in this video we are going to take a closer look at the decks. This is not going to be the video that claims that this is the best deck. It absolutely probably is not, because I still lose to some of the players, but to some of the other battlers in this game. But at the same time I'll happily show to you what I'm currently playing with and what I currently reached my kind of top end of the Silver League with, which is certainly still beginner rank, but it's much further than I was when I just started playing the game. Alright, let's take a look at it. We'll go into fight and you will take a look at this glowing kind of effect, which basically tells you, and I assume you're a beginner, I assume that you need this type of advice, that's why you stopped by the channel, thank you very much for that. So this glowing effect means that I can upgrade a card. So you would ask me, why am I not upgrading it? Well, because the resources are limited. Money, well, let's call it money, is limited. That's why we are saving those resources, saving those runes, saving that gold, saving that money for upgrading the cards that we really want. At the very top of the screen, as you can see, there are numbers. These numbers indicate the deck that I am modifying, so I can switch between the decks, and you can see that I have very differently laid out decks. They serve different purpose. So for example, the deck number 1 is my mid-range deck. This is a deck that relies on the Swarmers, or it relies on this Ravenous Scourge they're called. I usually give them sort of a casual little name that I'd like to go with. So Ravenous Scourge are multiplying after a while. So you drop them, they're not very strong by themselves individually as little kind of characters, but if the opponent leaves them alone long enough, they multiply. And they become a huge horde of these little creatures that travel along and do most damage to big targets, do most damage to something that doesn't cleave, doesn't do area of effect damage. If an enemy is even huge, but that enemy attacks only one opponent at a time, Ravenous Scourge will eat them alive. Alright, so Ravenous Scourge is one of my main weapons. Now, this one, let's take a look at it, and we probably will level it up. It's my Undead Army. This costs quite a lot. You can see that it costs 8 mana. 8 mana is fairly expensive card, so you cannot play it straight away in the game. You would have to be patient and you would have to wait when you can actually play it. The beauty of it is in the fact that we can, when you play this card, it summons skeletons, groups of skeletons in each lane, in all 3 lanes. You can immediately put pressure on your opponent and play that kind of strategy. Now, Rhino I had for a while. I call him Rhino, official name is Charger. He is an epic and kind of mid-range cost. He is fantastic, he is fairly sturdy, does a lot of damage, runs up, charges up, and does a lot of damage with the first kind of headbutt, let's call it. Yeah. So I am going to spend a little bit of runes on upgrading him, but as you can see, I do not have enough to level him up. I need 2 more power-ups before I can level him up, but I want to keep him kind of there at the top end of my cards. Archers you will see very quickly. Archers are among the very first ones that you will get. The common card, you will get them fairly early on, probably within your very first deck that the game gives you. So these ones, I know that there are some people who level them up pretty high, and I happen to have leveled them to level 4, as you can see. Under the mana cost it shows to you level 4. So they are okay. They are an okay mid-range card. I would not call them very effective, but at the same time sometimes you feel like that ranged attack where they do not need to approach the enemy face on, but where they can attack effectively from a distance, especially when their damage has been boosted. It's not a really bad strategy, so it's actually not too bad. The Brute, who I call the tank, is a rare card, costs quite a lot, costs 7, but also has a lot of health, as you can see. 1836 plus, boosted by all the upgrades to 88, which is very, very nice indeed, and does a lot of damage. The only problem of Brute is the fact that Brute cannot cleave. So Brute attacks individual enemies. So let's say if Brute is faced by the crowd of skeletons, Brute will be swinging at each individual skeleton or each individual Ravenous Scourge member, those little creatures that I showed you before. That reduces Brute's efficiency. However, against big targets, against single targets, against the enemy portals, Brute is fantastic, and the amount of health, huge amount of health, allows it to survive a lot of punishment. So I can highly recommend Brute, yes. Now, since we're looking at the whole deck, Water Elemental is sort of a common card, mid-range I'd say thing, but I use it in my aggro deck, which basically means the deck that plays cheaper cards early, relies on cheaper cards and tries to swarm the enemy as early as possible, as opposed to relying on huge, stronger decks that you play kind of later on. Water Elemental is pretty cool. Water Elemental you can play very early on, he costs only 2, and he gets summoned with a wave of water that pushes the enemy pretty far away, pretty far off. So that is, you can use basically Water Elemental to push enemies further away from your gate, which is very, very, very effective sometimes. What else? I have Viper. Viper is my fairly new card that I got not long ago. Viper costs 4, and the main benefit of Viper is that he poisons the enemies. So he poisons the enemy, and then even if Viper gets killed, the enemy still loses health quite at a pretty good rate. So as you can see at the bottom there of the information sheet, it says poison damage per second, 15%. So 15% the enemy is going to be losing of their health per second. That's pretty good, especially when you're up against more chunkier, more solid kind of enemies. Certainly not against the horde of skeletons, where it doesn't really matter if it's a Viper or not. So you don't want to waste the Viper going against a horde of little skeletons that are going to really kill him. So I saved the best for last in my personal kind of selection at the moment. It's called the Executioner. Executioner has a lot of health, reasonable amount of health, and does area damage, which is basically means he cleaves. Also, when he gets summoned, you will see in the game in a second, when he gets summoned, he throws this kind of chains, let's say, or hooks in front of him, and he pulls all enemies to himself, also stunning them for a little bit. That's an insane advantage. Basically, he can stop attacks of some most dangerous foes and then cleave all of them with one big swing. So he is fantastic to clear out hordes of skeletons. He's fantastic to pull closer someone who is a ranged minion who tries to attack you from the distance, but he kind of says, na 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 na, come closer, my friend, and then smack. Yeah, so I quite like him. So this is my mid-range deck, kind of serves all purposes. Presence of this archer here is questionable, so I probably could get away with putting someone better in rather than the archer. And Viper is very useful against big, strong, dangerous opponents, but less useful against aggro decks, against swarms of enemies. So his use in this deck, or his presence in this deck, especially 2 cards, I have 2 of them here, is also a little bit questionable, I admit that. But this is my deck that played fairly solidly until now. So I am going to play a game or 2 and try to demonstrate to you how it fares, and we will see what happens. Before I jump in, as far as my hero is concerned, so I have 3 heroes unlocked right now: Ruul, Valen, and Terran Ree. Ruul is not even leveled up, as you can see. Ruul is even level 1, and Valen is level 2. But I don't like Valen as much. I simply don't like him as much. That is just my personal preference, and I very much prefer my Ruul's attacks. I usually use Scorched Earth. I usually light up on fire the whole lane. And I also love Fire Blast. Fire Blast allows you to destroy hordes of enemies that are right next to your portal. I could not recommend this spell enough to you, especially if you're a beginner and don't know better. So I think that this is definitely a very good character. So why is it not allowing me to switch back to my Ruul? I have no idea, but I'm going to try and go again. Try and select Ruul now. Okay, great. And let's battle, my friends. Let's battle! Let's battle! While you're waiting for the opponent to arrive, please consider subscribing, supporting the growth of the channel. If you like this type of commentary, if you like gaming reviews, and just feeling generous in terms of showing your support, please do that. That is very much appreciated. And videos are being released every week, at the very least one video per week. So I would be more than happy if you showed your support. So I summoned Ravenous Scourge in the bottom lane right now. The enemy is attacking with the roly-polies. I have no idea what the name is. And I'm going to get rid of them very easily with this Reaper, who will do a couple of swings, or even one, and he will destroy. So looks like my Ruul, who I was telling you so much about how awesome he is and how awesome the Scorched Earth is and other skills are, and then looks like I picked the build that has, it looks like when I switched back to him, I actually didn't use the deck that I was showing to you guys, or maybe I did. It's very hard to tell right now. Let's just go with it until the end of this game and just see after, because I was switching the heroes. I have a suspicion that it may have switched me to the other deck, the one that I was not showing to you before. So see this big guy in the bottom lane? So I'm going to use Venom to poison him, because otherwise he's going to destroy my guys pretty easily and going to continue causing a lot of trouble. The main point that I'm trying to make and that I'm trying to recommend to you as at least mid-range kind of quality, see, he suffered from poison and died. The main strategy that I recommend is to keep pressure on all lanes. I know that it's questionable and a lot of people would possibly disagree with me, but I really think that it works very, very well. So I think that is something that you should definitely consider. This girl that he summoned with, I do not know her name because I don't have that character, but the one with the bow, with the one that does so much kind of rapid fire attack thing, I really think that she is very overpowered character. Basically means that she is super duper strong, in my opinion. I think almost too strong. I would argue that she is too strong. But maybe it's just because I don't have her and I feel a little bit jealous. So it is likely that the game will go to my opponent this time, simply because I made a mistake and I have not picked the right deck, guys. But this is live commentary for you. I'm recording this as a live commentary, which hopefully you enjoy, and maybe consider subscribing, showing your support right now to this channel, because I will be bringing these similar things to you all the time. And no, I was using the right deck, but it looks like my Ruul in this case was having the wrong abilities set up. So now we have the right abilities. How about we try this once again, just for laughs? And if I fail, I fail. You can tell me that I failed in the comments down below and how you would suggest to improve these tactics if you would like to. But what I wanted to share is my current deck. I've been playing now for a while, I've been playing now for over a week, and I'm actually quite enjoying it, and there was some limited success to my progression. So this deck definitely works. Maybe Venom is throwing it, Venom Viper is throwing it a little bit off, because I haven't used Viper before. It's a fairly newly obtained unit for me, which is why I'm not sure, maybe he's throwing it a little bit off balance. Let's burn these two guys, and let's send a Viper to deal with that Trent, which he will be able to, unless the enemy right now, and he sends 2 Trents even. Wow, that is very brave of him to do, and certainly probably smart. Oh, yep, he dealt with my guys, but my Viper has been killed by his hammer. I'm gonna poison this one. Now, as a player who is fairly new to the game, I do not know what that character is called in the top lane, the enemy character that was just summoned. I actually don't know who that is. If you know who that is, please tell me in the comments down below. I have never seen him before, just hasn't happened. There are quite a few cards in this game, but looks like we got rid of him. The skeletons survived my attack, so I'm going to continue pressing mine. I'm going to continue following my own advice that I give you. In this case, if I may, I suggest that you keep the pressure on in multiple lanes. Do not put the pressure into the single lane. Now, the big kind of frog-looking dude in the bottom and the middle lane is called the Devourer. Devourer is trouble. Devourer is trouble because Devourer does exactly what it stands for. Devourer swallows your minions without any apologies, swallows your minions and then lets them out after he dies. So you basically need to be very careful about Devourers, because Devourers are more trouble than they appear to be. If you didn't free your guys up quickly enough, you will be in trouble. And see, right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to use the strategy of letting the enemy come closer to my gate, so that I can burn them with this. Let's try. Okay, again Devourers have gotten rid of my poor eaten characters. But I'm going to push back this Trent. At the very least I'm going to try and survive this. See how this goes. At this level the game starts already throwing challenges at you in the form of more skilled opponents naturally. So it doesn't surprise me too much that it's not as easy to win as it was in, for example, the first game that I demonstrated to you. Okay, but we are now putting quite a lot of pressure on him. I will see what he does now. So he uses that wizard, who did actually a ton of damage, but I think my bottom lane and top lane are going to win us this game, to show to you that this deck does work. Boom, we won. Thank you very much for watching, sticking with me. Yes, you win some, you lose some, but in this particular case we won the second time, and I was dropped to the position 15. So what I think happens in the league as well is that when you didn't play for a bit, then somebody else naturally overtakes you. I was at the very top and now I'm in position 15. No harm done. We will do better next time. And I'd like to once again thank you for watching. This is a bonus video for this week. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends, come back with advice, come back for more fun. And Happy New Year, everyone!